Hello and welcome to the Forest Land Mishmash Fantasy Football regular season finale recap. And it was probably the most exciting week of the NFL season so far. And in some ways, it was the most exciting fantasy football week so far. And not only that, but we had 3 out of the 4 playoff positions on the line. Some teams controlled their own destiny, and there were some heartbreaking losses and some teams that are probably really kicking themselves for just not being able to get in the playoffs. And of course, that leaves the door open for 2 other teams to sneak in there and get in there. So I'll have to start with the most heartbreaking of all, which is the Chicago Travelers, who ended up with, I believe, the second or third or the first or second most points in the league during the regular season. Just needed a win against the 5-6-2 or 5-6-7-1. Show me your TDs, and was burned by the absolute worst fantasy performance by a fantasy MVP that we've seen in recent memory. And then, of course, I'm talking about Todd Gurley. So if we look at the score, we had the Chicago Travelers, and maybe should have known it started a little inauspiciously Thursday, although I can't really fault him for not putting Derrick Henry in. But Derrick Henry, who hadn't gotten 20 points in a game all year, had the amazing, not only 99-yard touchdown run, but 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards, just an amazing 53-point fantasy game. But of course, being on the bench, the one area where the Travelers were just stacked were running backs. Aaron Jones has been great the last several weeks. Let's check out his points. 32, 27, 18, 14. He's been great really all season. He's also got Nick Chubb, who the last 3 or 4 weeks has had some points. Of course, 38 points this week, 27, 16, 17. So just really stacked. And, of course, there was no way you could expect Derrick Henry to be in the starting lineup. And, of course, he wasn't. So as the weekend went on, it still looked pretty good for the Travelers, who got plenty of points from Chubb and Jones and the 2 quarterbacks. And Travis Kelce had an amazing game as well. But really where it was lost was Zach Ertz only getting 8 points. And I never heard whether he was hurt or not, but there was some other tight end on the Eagles that was getting all the catches. So that was another bad omen. But really the final nail in the coffin was a season-low 8 points for Todd Gurley. Look at this. I mean, the most consistent fantasy stud of the year never had lower than 19 points other than this one 11-point game. Only gets 8 yards, just gets stuffed all night. Just needed a measly 2 more rushing yards to get the last point, which would have put him over the hump. But alas, it did not happen. And the Travelers tie, show me your TDs. And if the Stallions and the Cartel both win, he is out. And that's exactly what happened. The Cartel, who might be the favorite at this point, scored 154 points, did not have James Conner, who was out. He only ended up with, he was out for the game. Only 5 points for Marcus Mariota, but Saquon Barkley doing his thing. Joe Mixon had a great game. And Juju Smith-Schuster, who has also been, along with James Conner, just been amazing all year. You've got Antonio Brown on one side, but you just see these consistent points game in and game out from Smith-Schuster. He was amazing once again. The Cartel get a perfectly respectable 154 points, and they win, and they're in the playoffs, and in doing so, helps to knock off third and Oolong, who needed a win to guarantee or a Finkel loss, and neither of those things happened, and they lose. Third and Oolong is out of the playoffs. They finish at 7-7. Other games of note, of course, were the Stallions win and they're in. They benefit from a good schedule, playing the lowly colon cleansers, and nothing to apologize there. Had that amazing 200-yard, 210-yard receiving game from a tight end, which I don't know if he ever got number 1 all time, but was definitely in the top 2 of all-time tight end receiving yards in a game. 38 points. and just a lot of consistency elsewhere. Jarvis Landry, I think, had a rushing touchdown, and everyone else with some points. And they get 171 points. And the tough luck, just lowly colon cleansers who've just had nothing but bad luck all year, they get 102 points. They're, of course, way out of the playoffs, and the Stallions are in. So the only other thing to note was whether Ray Finkel would win, and they're in. And that came out to the Monday night game, and actually the last drive, because the Slim Aussies, who were leading the league all year in points and clinched the number 1 seed 2 weeks ago, have had nothing but bad luck since. Melvin Gordon's out, and this game Sunday night with the Seattle defense couldn't have been worse, as Cousins only got 11 points. Thielen had 12. Most of those were at the very end, and it really came down to whether Cousins was going to get the garbage touchdown. If it went to Thielen, that would have been enough. It would have been an extra 6 points, and the Slim Aussies would have won and knocked Finkel out. But the last touchdown was, I believe, to Dalvin Cook, someone other than Humphreys. And so the Slim Aussies with a really disappointing 103 points. Lucky for them, they've already clinched the number 1 seed, so it was meaningless. But they do indirectly get Ray Finkel into the playoffs. So Ray Finkel, congratulations, getting in the playoffs and winning the division with -1 for Jared Goff, 0 from LaShawn McCoy, nothing else at all, but they get the 107-103 win. They're in the playoffs. They're definitely going to be a long shot to win it all, but they are in the tournament. So let's take a quick look at the final standings. As we noted, the Slim Aussies lost 2 in a row, but they had already clinched. They go to 10-4. The Cartel Stallions are both 8-6, and the Poor Travelers out with the tie. And if you look at the points, again, the Travelers with the second most points in the entire league, and they're out of the playoffs. Slim Aussies, with the last 2 weeks, their points go down to third. They were leading the league in points most of the season. They're down to third, but they get the number 1 seed with record. And then in the MASH division, you have Ray Finkel squeaking it out at 8-6 with just the third highest point in the division. And if we go real quick, we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th, 7th lowest point in the whole league, but they are 8-6, and they are in the playoffs. So now let's take a look at the playoff bracket. The early line is we have the number 1 Slim Aussies against the number 4 Stallions, which is a -1 line right now, so it's basically even. Of course, the injuries to Melvin Gordon is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a game-time decision where the Slim Aussies could start Melvin Gordon. So we'll see if any waiver moves get done before, but as of now, we have a 1-point line. And then we have as expected, a big line here with the number 1 scoring Catonville Cartel. They do get the 3rd seed because they do not get the division. Ray Finkel, even though they won the division, or even though they didn't score any points, is the number 2 seed, but they are plus 21. So the number 3 seed is favored and might be the favorite to win it all. But of course, as you know, that's why they play the games. And then, of course, the consolation ladder, the Tough Luck Travelers against the Tough Luck Third and New Long. And then Show Me Your TDs in the first down order, playing for Pride, along with the Cleansers and Graceland. So it was an awesome regular season. 14 weeks down. We've got 2 playoff weeks to go. Congratulations to those who made the playoffs, and tough luck for those who just missed it. And that's it for now. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week after round 1 of the playoffs.